I'll look at you and stop
Yeah.
getting me all distracted with this.
I'm sorry.
All right. Hi, Madison.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent.
So first question, have you always wanted to be a professor?
Yes.
Since day one?
I always wanted to be a teacher in second grade. I said, I want to be a teacher. It was one of the 3 things I wanted to do in my life. Then when I was going through university, I think it was towards the end of my, getting ready to graduate, that I said, I want to be a professor. And I kept in touch with a bunch of my undergraduate professors. And so when I was ready to apply for PhD programs, I had a relationship. I contacted them again and said, what's up? And this is what I want to do. I'm ready to do it. How do I do it? And so they came back and said, okay, this is our suggestions. And I listened to everybody that was providing suggestions, and then I was able to take what I wanted and go through the application process.
So why did you want to be a professor rather than work in the field that you were studying?
I wanted to influence people that were being exposed to supply chain, and I wanted to influence them in a positive way because I love supply chain management. Supply chain is something that I have done all of my life. And I can think back to when I was a child and I was applying these philosophies in my world around me. And I realized later in life that my mother also was very much a supply chain person. And between my mother and my father was an accountant, there's aspects of supply chain all the way through everything I've done in my life. Is this allowed to fade?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it'll still be on. I just touched it and just trying to keep it going, but your battery might run out. Okay. Go ahead. What's your next question? Did I address your question?
Yes, you did.
If not, come back and ask me again. But
what classes are you teaching currently?
I teach 2 different types of courses. One is the purchasing course, which is 371. And that is a required course for people that have finished the initial course, which is the introductory course. Then they have to take they have to take 3 of 3 different courses: purchasing, manufacturing operations, and then logistics. I teach the 371, which is the purchasing course. Then I'm also teaching the 470 course, which is a capstone course. I forget the title. It doesn't matter to me what it's called. It's just a capstone course, and I cover a variety of things, but I'm getting the student ready to graduate. And I consider my goal in that course is to prepare you. It's my final attempt to prepare you for your job. And so I'm working with students on their reports, making sure that they can write well, they have a good idea of how to structure a report to get their message across to their audience. And I'm also working with them on their presentation skills. The third part of that, of course, is supply chain concepts. And so I'm teaching them to look at business problems in a different way than they have been. And so I'm actually continuing work I started with in the 371 course and continuing to apply it in the 470, which is case management.
Okay. What class would you recommend that all supply chain students take?
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's required, take it. Otherwise, my suggestion is if it's an elective, follow your passions. That's where I come from is you got to love what you're doing. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Don't spend your time on it. So if you don't love it, get out. And that's my attitude is you got to love what you're doing.
Okay. Would you recommend a foreign language?
If you like it. I think I love foreign languages. I spoke Spanish. I went to Ecuador when I was 18. Got fluent. I'd been studying it since 7th grade, and so I couldn't speak it until I went to Ecuador, and then I finally had to kick butt to learn it. In Ecuador, I got to really see the beauty of that language and get to experience the differences between our American language and our Spanish language. I've also been able to travel over many countries in the world. I recently came back from Shanghai. And while there, I learned the numberings, how to, numbers. I learned how to count, and I learned what the numbers were. I also learned a couple other basic phrases like delicious and beautiful and that sort of thing. But understanding languages and how it represents a culture is an interesting process. And I don't know how much you've been exposed to and stuff like that. But I find the language does express aspects of their culture. And so the Chinese numbering system is actually one of the easiest I've ever learned in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
I would not have expected that.
Yeah, and I'm just talking, they when they're saying, like, for example, the number 11, it's 10-1. 21 is 2-10-1.
Oh,
Okay, so once you learn the first 10 numbers, you can put together any number between 0 and 99 without any difficulty. And once you get to 100, you have to know what the word 100 means. And then, again, you can go all the way up to 999. So it's actually really easy.
Yeah, once you get the hang of it, it shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What should a student do if they're struggling? What do you recommend? If they're struggling in a class, what do you think is the best way to?
There's a number of reasons a student can struggle. We're not on the focus of supply chain here. You know that, right?
Yeah, just like in general.
Okay, in general. I have to understand why they're struggling and what is the reason for that. I have a student struggling now. His father passed away and hit him really hard.
Yeah.
I have, some students struggle because they don't want to work and apply themselves. Students who pass my class work, and if they don't work, they don't pass my class. Some students are not motivated because they don't like the topic. They're just simply not interested in supply chain. I prefer those students to get out. Go find where your passion is. Get excited about whatever it is you're going to study. Mm-hmm. It's pretty rare that I have a student who can't find his passion. Some students simply aren't motivated because their father or mother is directing them to study a particular field or topic. I really caution students from following what their parents are telling them to do. It might be that a parent is telling the child to go study in a certain area because the parent is actually fairly aware of what the child's passions are. But it's better for the child to find that passion, in my mind. I was 30, in my early 30s, before I told my mom, get out of my life. And, she was trying to steer me all of my life. And I finally, when I hit 30, I said, get out. And I love you, but get out. This is my life. I'm going to do what I want. And that's when I quit my job, decided to go back for my PhD. She freaked out. She wanted me to be, financially secure and a good job. I was like, I'm in a great job. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it. And that's not what's right for me. And so I said, it's time to go back for my PhD. And that's where I went.
So what kind of jobs did you have before you became a professor?
Okay. I started in a drugstore, stocking shelves.
Got to start somewhere.
It was my high school job. And I actually loved it. I was really good at stocking shelves. And sometimes when things get crazy busy right now, we're always using our mind as a professor. Our mind is so instrumental. I sometimes, I'll go out with my husband. He likes to pop into Walmart or whatever store, and I'll just sit there waiting for him to pick and choose what products he wants, and I'll straighten the shelves. And it helps me center my brain, because otherwise I'm just so distracted sometimes. I've got so many different things that I'm juggling that stocking shelves is something that brings me comfort. Now that I've gone on an extreme length here about this, that was where I started. I was working in a drugstore. I'm glad I have that experience. It was really important to me. It also helped me realize what I wanted to do in life. I loved the candy aisle. I loved working with products that I had a good understanding of what it was and that I could relate to it. With that, I ended up, during college, I did a lot of work at restaurant sort of things. I worked as a waitress, or I worked in the food cafeteria at the dining hall of my university. These were things that I said, oh, gee, I seem to be attracted to food manufacturing. So when I was graduating, I wanted to go work in the food industry. And so I only interviewed companies that were food manufacturing organizations. So that would be Nabisco, Kraft, big names mostly. Interviewed with Taco Bell. I wasn't as interested in that because it wasn't applying my knowledge right away. I wanted to apply my knowledge immediately to the job. I ended up working with Nabisco for a couple of years, 5 years, and I had 3 promotions in 5 years, plus I earned my MBA. So I was really gung-ho. And then after my finished my 5th year, I said, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. I'm bored.
Something different.
They didn't have anything for me. And I just said, well, then I'm going to go look elsewhere. And I got a position at Ocean Spray. And for 4 years, I sat in the same desk doing the same thing, and it only took me 6 months to learn it. I was so bored, and so this was good money, great, great company. I was bored, and I hated my job, and I was like, "Get me out of here." So that's where I'm saying, you got to find your passion. And although I was learning my passion, I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted to be successful in my career. And so I had to say, okay, well, what do I want? When do I want it? I looked at other companies, didn't get the job offers I was looking for. I was getting offers that were similar to jobs I'd already had right out of college. And I said, I've been out of college 9 years. I'm not going to go back and act like I'm fresh out of university. At that point, I decided, it's time. Let's go back for my PhD. And it was not something I had wanted to have the title of manager behind my name. And I wasn't getting it. And I finally I looked young for my age. I still do. And I just said, it's time for me to go do something else. And if I keep banging into this ceiling, I got to find somewhere where I'm not banging because this isn't working. So I applied for PhD programs, got in, went to Ohio State. It was my first choice. And thankfully they extended an offer to me. So I was absolutely thrilled. Spent 5 years there. And then went to University of Western Ontario, Canada. Taught there for about 5 years, and then they pulled me in saying, "We want you. You are a perfect fit." And I liked many of the people that worked here, so it was hard to come here though, and because it also had a reputation of being a tough school, and I've been very happy here for many different reasons.
So this is totally off topic, but for the football game next week, who do you want to win, Ohio State or Michigan State?
I am a fan of both universities. I will put out my Buckeye flag on my house, but I cheer on both teams.
That's good then.
I'm a fan of MSU for all the games, but this one is a tough one.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. Yeah. So what would you recommend to a supply chain person to be able to establish themselves in the
field?
Yes.
In the field?
Yes.
All right, so this is after graduation?
Yes. Or going to job fairs, what can make them
all right, before graduation?
Yes, just well-rounded.
Be open to reading the newspaper on a regular basis. I know during the semester it gets a little crazy, but read the newspaper, particularly the business section. Sometimes Wall Street Journal can be a bore, but other times there's some interesting articles in there. You don't have to read the whole thing, but read some articles in a paper like Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. The business sections focus on that. If you have to, USA Today, it's one I grab when I'm going through airports, just because it offers such diversity of cultures. I like the cultural aspect of it. Read a lot. And during breaks, continue reading. Ask your professors what their favorite books are in the field of supply chain management. And get reading lists. And then start reading them. Back to you.
What is the most rewarding part of your career?
Guiding and mentoring students.
Why is that? Just the satisfaction?
I like working with undergrads, and I like that because they're not jaded by the business community that they eventually go to work in. Most of my supply chain students have had internship experiences, 6 months maybe, and so they've got some feel for the business environment. They're not all coming back jaded. My students are very smart, and they are very knowledgeable about supply chain management. So there's a lot of joy in mentoring and guiding the student to become stronger and more capable in their knowledge in their field. And almost all of them have a passion for supply chain. These are reasons I enjoy working with them. Master's students, and you looked at me funny when I said jaded. Master's students tend to be, some of them have been hurt by the organizations that they're working with. I know because I've been there. I've seen it, and it can be painful. There's certain parts of a business and career that are painful, especially when you want to go somewhere and you're not being given the opportunities to go. I think this goes back to the previous question that you just asked is how do I prepare for it? Be really good at communicating, and whether it's in writing or orally, you need to be able to get your message across in a way that is not aggressive, yet it's at the same time you're able to get your message across that they're not, undermining you and thinking that you don't have something of value to add. You need to make sure that that message is getting across to the people that need to hear it.
Okay. I think we're good. I've learned a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
very
I wish
much.
you well on your supply chain journey.